Bunkai Strategies, we're going to talk about something very, very basic, very fundamental to traditional karateka. And the point is that when we're training, a lot of our time is spent delivering the straight punch. The straight punch itself is fundamental to the way we train. But people will say, well, it's not realistic. Well, it depends how you train, doesn't it? Because if we're training to be boxers, then we need to meet in a boxing ring, because the rules there have a function that helps us to fight in that manner. But if we're just going to have a scrap, then we'd better just have a scrap. And the karate techniques are there to hone certain lines, certain ways of moving. And it doesn't mean that the karateka should never throw a hook. The hook should be another tool in your arsenal. This particular tool, the straight punch, has taken over in a lot of dojo around the world, and perhaps there might be too much emphasis on it, but at the same time, it's one of those things that we better learn how to use it in a functional way. So, first things first, why bother with a straight punch? Because if I'm here and I'm about to do a hook, and I open this up, it's plainly visible. The reason it's plainly visible is because the second I open up to hook, this arm escapes my silhouette. If you check the outline, the hook has got to come from outside the silhouette. A really clever boxer will make the hook come from inside their silhouette, and it will be a very, very short movement of the arm, maybe delivered with a really big movement of the body. But most people outside don't see that. They'll just see that arm from out there come swinging in, and it gets dealt with, and it gets dealt with in quite a simple way, because any kind of focus on what's going on here detects that really early. Peripheral vision just sees it coming from a mile off. Some of us will choose to use the guard to make the other person throw a broad hook. If I stand like that, there's no chance of a hook coming. It's going to be a straight shot. If I close down the guard and start to talk to him over the tops of my fingers, then I can be fairly sure that it's not going to be a straight. It's going to be a hook. So when that happens, I invite certain kinds of attack. So I'll be saying, leave me alone, I don't want to fight, and anything else I can do to talk the situation down. When we want to deliver a shot, I'm better off delivering it from within my silhouette. If you take the outline of the body, I'm better off delivering a shot that shoots straight down the middle and goes to the target. And I might do something to distract and then send it. I might draw the guard and then send it, but it wants to fly straight because that's the shortest route. Second reason why the straight is going to be better than the hook, but not better, just another tool, is that if, for instance, there's any kind of layback, so I send my hook in and just lay back, lay away from it, then the hook's got a range that misses. The straight, if I send it in and he lays back, just keeps going. And it's accentuated just by taking a step to get there to reach the target. So the old adage of, if you just jab, then you can't reach him if he just lays back. But if he lays back and you just follow it, then you're going to be on top of him anyway. So, delivering the straight is a wise thing to do. But the karate punch is usually accompanied by this hand coming back to the hip. If we're sport fighting and I've got gloves on, I really don't want to do that. Because the second I do that, I've left myself wide open. What we must come to understand is that the hand coming back to the hip is only for pulling. So, the only reason to take it back is if I'm pulling something. And then we can see that the Chudan shot is right in front of my middle. It's at the height of my solar plexus. So if our Chudan shot is right in the middle of my solar plexus height, then I've got a reason to spend a lot of my time trying to move to that place. Now, what you'll notice is that the target moved from there to there. Well, this comes back to an old adage about our bunkai, doesn't it? It doesn't want to be directly in front of us. If the opponent's here, then I need to move him to make him at a 45-degree angle. I need to draw his other weapons away. How do we do that? It might be that we're already in the middle of this and we just draw off to the side to make that happen. But you need to have that as a core principle, that I'm going to corkscrew this punch. If the corkscrew punch is so great, how come boxers don't use it? Because it's banned in boxing. Drawing blood is going to finish the match really quickly, and it doesn't make for a good contest. So if I touch skin and then twist, I'm more likely to cut flesh with the shot. As such, the boxer's punch has got to be straight in, landing flat, in order to create concussive impact rather than tearing impact. People will talk about what angle the hand goes at. And if they do that, they're missing the point that the end position is that. It's an end position. And we're going to make contact part of the way through the movement. If I make contact at the end, I'm sparring. It's sport, doesn't matter. If we're making contact to make contact, I'm going to need to contact part way through and then continue into the target. So with all these things going for it, our straight punch, committed with the body rather than the weight of the arm, tells us that we're going to get all our power rather than just the strength from our arm delivering the shot. With all that going on, you can see there's lots and lots of things that need training when we're doing our straight shot. As such, we need to make sure that we spend quite a lot of time on it, because we're not just flailing with this, it's going to be driven in. So, with that in mind, you have tools that we'll use. A pad like this is great for landing with a low welly, because the person holding the pad can tell you about, give it some more, give it some more. And drive into that, smash through, really drill in, and he can tell me from behind the pad, yeah, good, oh, that was a good one, I made a load of noise, that's great. That's why we'll use the ether foam, and instead of going in with full welly straight from the off, we start out very, very light. Because if you go straight in, you realise that unfortunately breaks happen, because this does not absorb the power of the shot, it merely diffuses it. So this is ether foam, it's available from all good packaging companies, and we drive this from here, or from nowhere, but it's going to the target. And as it lands on the target not at full extension, but at a point where we're going to make contact and continue through. And we use a numbering system to find out how much our partner wants from it. So we'll start off 0 because you don't want to cause harm in training.
1,
Build it up.
2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
7, 8. 10 is you broke something. Let's leave it at 7, 8. The point is that these shots are delivered through like that. If we use this equipment, that kind of shot doesn't get the transference. That's about what we were getting 7, 8 on before, and of course it's not really getting through because of the nature of the equipment. So this equipment's good for us to blast, that equipment's good to tell us what kind of effect we're having through the target. Or we just punch each other and that'll do it too. Okay, so looking at our straight punch, how do we want to use it? It's got to be in conjunction with stuff. Maybe we then hit. Maybe then you hit. But there's got to be something going on. It's not just that I start over here and approach him from, that's really not what we're about, is it? So we look at how we move. I don't want to fight in me alone. And could you just go? Yes. So that then could easily be a fist. Let's call it a jab. Then could I draw this and land across? Yes. Well, across is another name for gyakuzuki. So it's a karate technique. Or a boxing technique if you prefer. We don't really mind what you call it. Then we look at how you use the hikite. If we just draw, then I open up targets. If I really, then we make the target exactly where we need it to be. And we just have that about us, that we're not going to go, I'm stood here, I'll punch you. Instead, we make things happen that enable it to happen, enable us to enter that space. This full rotation issue, as we come back to that, drawing the circle, end up coming back. Some people will say it should be up this way, some people will say this way, some people say 3/4. One of the legends that we hear is that it should be at 3/4 because the 3/4 punch fits really nicely into the solar plexus. Well, the solar plexus is only available if you don't use your hikite properly anyway, and if you use the hikite properly, then you're not going to be hitting just there, so you better find somewhere else to stick this. And if we're going to aim for here, then I probably need to expose it to make it available to us in the first place, and I don't really want to be hitting it square. I need to be creating a situation where that becomes available, by which I mean, as I get around to it eventually, that I've got to change his balance. Now if I change his balance, then a straight forward shot has a different angle on the body. So we train the body to do the technique, but then create the situation for the technique. Does that make sense? Right? So we're not going to be going, I'll attack there. We're going to be drawing to here and then coming through, complete with a distance that we can penetrate. Now whether that's that much or that much is going to vary, and we need to train all those different scenarios. So I think we've given a little bit of food for thought on the oizuki or gyakuzuki, the straight punch, chokazuki of karate. And it's got to be not just a conversation about that, but a conversation that includes the facets of distance, of creating the space, and of choosing your targets. Once we get all of those things working together, then our straight punch has got a purpose outside of you and me sparring, and I take a big enough step that you've got plenty of time to deal with it and put something in at a distance that's not going to hurt me, which is how a lot of people will use it. And we're going to use it a lot closer in, and we're going to use situations to open up targets, make them available to us, to drive through with the body. And this just happens to be the lance that's at the front.